My name is Karen Andrews. I'm a clinical psychologist and I've been working with high-performing women and men since 2009. And there's one thing that comes up over and over again. It's guilt. No matter how much they achieve, they still feel guilty. They still feel like they're not doing enough. Even when they've earned a break, they can't actually relax. If this sounds familiar, you are not alone. What I've learned from years of doing this work with my clients and for myself, to be honest, this kind of guilt isn't serving you. It's actually robbing you of your joy in your life, and it's making you miserable. So today I want to show you where that guilt actually comes from and give you a really simple way of letting go of it without sacrificing your relationships, your work, your career, or yourself. Let's get into this. Firstly, let's talk about the internal part. I like to call it the internal trap. The first reason that high-achieving women feel guilty all the time is internal. It starts with how we learn to connect our success to our self-worth as children. If you're a high achiever, you probably became one, at least partly because of a tendency towards perfectionism. In some ways, your perfectionism has stood you in good stead. Maybe your parents' approval was conditional, however, on your success, which was driven by that perfectionism. Or maybe you were a really sensitive child who sought approval from others. Either way, you learned early on that doing things really well, doing them perfectly, gets applause and approval. And you equated doing things really well with being worthy of love. The problem is you can't switch that off. Those impossibly high standards follow you into every aspect of your life. And as you get older, as you have children, as you progress up the career ladder, or as you take on more with your business and have more people depending on you, it becomes harder and harder to manage that perfectionism because it's impossible, right? And that perfectionist voice. Perfectionism, overthinking, self-criticism, they all tend to arise from a deep-seated belief that you're not good enough. So you get caught in this cycle where you actually do achieve the goal. You set the goal, you achieve it. But instead of feeling fulfilled, you often just feel empty or still as guilty and anxious. Then you set the next goal, hoping that next time it's going to be enough. Let me tell you about my client Kathy, not her real name. She's a senior partner at a law firm, mother of 2, and on paper she has everything. But she came to me because she was exhausted. She told me, I feel guilty about everything. When I'm at work, I feel guilty about not being with my kids. When I'm with my kids, I feel guilty about the emails that I'm not answering. She said, when I finally sit down to relax and watch Netflix for an hour, I feel horrible about wasting time. Does this sound familiar? If you're ready to break free from this kind of cycle and this pervasive guilt, there is a link in the description below to connect with me directly. And you're also welcome to join my high performance mindset community. That link is also in the description. Second, let's talk about the external pressure, because it's not just internal. There are external reasons why women, especially successful women, feel guilty pretty much all of the time. The problem is that the cultural expectations on women are literally impossible. Women are expected to be perfect moms, perfect wives, perfect leaders. We're expected to be objects of beauty, thin, polished, groomed, never untidy. And we're expected to be nice while we show all this perfection. But here's the reality. We have roots growing out grey. We bite our nails when we get stressed. Our legs are not naturally hairless. Neither are our faces or our bikini lines. For us to look natural, we need to spend loads of time on grooming. If men start to lose their hair over the years, they shave their heads. They don't think, well, maybe they think twice about it, but that option is 100% open to them. Women frequently lose their hair after pregnancy or due to stress or perhaps due to aging. But how often do you see a woman with a shaved head in the office? Women have to get extensions or wear wigs or toppers, and this is completely normalized. When I was in my 20s, I was quite rebellious in general. I went to see a local alternative rock band in my hometown, and they all had shaved heads, and the lead singer asked for a volunteer. I said I'd go for it, and she shaved my head on stage, leaving just a few swirly patterns on the top. You know, I thought it looked absolutely amazing, but until my hair grew out, I was asked multiple times if I had cancer, because apparently chemo is the only acceptable reason that people can imagine for a woman to shave her head. Women in Dubai get 6 weeks of maternity leave total. Then they're back at work, pumping their breast milk for their babies in the office toilet because there's nowhere else to go. These are the kinds of things that women routinely deal with, especially high achievers, right? Let's go back to Kathy. Kathy is the one who plans the play dates in her family. She organizes the play dates, she schedules them, she liaises with the nanny to make the snacks, she puts in the family calendar, she reminds her husband the day before, and she better remind him again an hour before, or he may forget. He shows up with the kids and gets all the credit for being such a good dad. When a man cooks dinner and takes his children to the park, everyone praises him and congratulates his wife on how lucky she is. Wow, you're so lucky, you've got such a great husband. But when a woman does the exact same thing, even though she's working full-time, even though she has a business or a career or whatever she has, nobody says a word, because that is just what is expected of women. That is the minimum expected of women. Kathy told me I have to choose between work and my kids, find time to groom myself and look, the way it's expected. I need to have sex with my husband when he wants it. I need to manage the household and somehow still be a good person and somehow always be nice. But if I lie down on the couch and watch Netflix for an hour, I feel horribly guilty. So I watch it late at night. And the problem, obviously, is that that means I sacrifice sleep, it makes me tired, and then I feel even more guilty because, I did it to myself. The guilt is like a constant noise. It's a critical inner voice that just doesn't shut up. And it's always saying, should. You should be doing this, you should be doing that, you should be doing something else, especially when you're relaxing. So what's the solution? I'm going to call it the logical guilt test. I want to show you how to fight this guilt using a simple but powerful tool. It's really actually a very simple strategy, but we tend to forget it. When you feel guilty, ask yourself this one question. Is the guilt that I'm feeling justified or unjustified? And I want you to apply your logic here. Let's say you're taking a weekend away with your friends, leaving your kids with your husband and the nanny. You feel plagued by guilt. All of you feel plagued by guilt. You ask yourself, am I a really bad mom? But instead, I want you to ask yourself, is this guilt justified? Ask yourself, are my children safe? Are they being cared for? Is this weekend away actually going to recharge me in some way, make me a better mother even? If so, the guilt is absolutely not justified. You need to kick it out. But what if the guilt is justified? Maybe you snapped at your child in some way, or you were mean to your husband or partner and you criticized them. And when you ask yourself logically, you realize that your behavior was not reasonable. Maybe you were tired and at the end of your tether, but you know that actually your guilt is justified. In which case, the next step is repair. You apologize. Make a real apology. Don't say to your child, "I'm sorry I shouted at you, but you were behaving really badly." Make it a true apology. Say, "I'm really, really sorry. I shouldn't have shouted at you. I love you." Take responsibility, make the repair, and then move on. Because life is short, and feeling guilty robs you of your joy. Feeling guilty doesn't make you a better person. It actually just makes you less pleasant to be around. It makes you into a more exhausted version of yourself who cannot be everything that you want to be. Let me know in the comments if this sounds like you, or if maybe you even think that somehow being guilty makes you into a better person. The thing is, this little strategy, this question, is something that you have to implement daily. It's not a decision that you just make once off. It's something that you have to practice on a daily basis because you feel guilty on a daily basis. You have to stop, you have to pause, and you have to ask yourself the question, is this guilt that I'm feeling right now justified or unjustified? And you need to ask yourself this question on a daily basis. I suggest you write it on a post-it note. Stick it on your laptop, put it in the mirror in your bathroom. And then make it a habit to pause and reflect just for 1 minute and ask yourself this question and make a logical decision, not a guilt-inspired decision. This is what happened with Kathy after she learned this technique. She's not guilt-free. None of us are, and we shouldn't probably be. But she transformed her relationship with herself. Now, when she wants to relax in her garden with her cats and a cup of tea while the nanny baths the kids, she just gives herself full permission. Instead of doing it resentfully or lying in the garden but feeling guilty. She watches Netflix on her phone or listens to a podcast, and afterwards she's refreshed and ready to be present when she puts her children to bed with a story and a cuddle. Because she's taking more care of herself, she can present the best version of herself. She's getting more sleep. She says no more often. She goes home early more often instead of working frequently late. She does spend less time with her children, but she's fully present when she's with them. And that makes the huge difference. It's quality, right? Her relationships have improved. And the funny thing is that her work performance actually got better too. The best version of yourself is a version that is built on self-love and self-care, not guilt and exhaustion. So what happens if you try this technique but you still can't get out of that guilt loop that you're stuck in? If the guilt is so pervasive and the voice is so loud that you can't manage it on your own, there may well be something more serious going on. Perhaps you have some kind of anxiety disorder, maybe you're depressed. Please seek help from a licensed psychologist or speak to your doctor. You know, anxiety or depression can keep us absolutely trapped in patterns that we cannot break alone. So reach out. And if you'd like to connect with me, the link is in the description.